Welcome to this special meeting of council of the Corporation and Municipality of Central Elgin. It's Thursday, June the 29th at 3 o'clock. Welcome those in the council chambers as well as those people who are joining us on Zoom. To start, may I ask council if there is any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none. I don't think we have anything in other business. Councillor Connors, please.
Through you, Mayor. I'd like to advise council that I'd like to put a motion on the floor to reconsider the organizational review that was discussed at the last meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Connors. Mr. Graves, if you could give me some insight on the procedure, sir.
Okay, so that being the case, I believe that at the last meeting, you and Councillor Halpin had conflicts relative to that topic. I just think we should make that clear.
Thank you. Yes, I think that that's something where if the council moves to allow him to make a motion, then at that point, I'd like to declare.
So if I may, Your Worship.
Yes, sir.
Procedurally, as was what we did at the last meeting, I think it was Councillor Graham introduced a motion relating to trees. So council would need to vote if they're prepared to entertain a motion. That this isn't the motion about the reorganization, it's just that they're going to entertain a motion from Councillor Connors to reconsider.
Thank you.
So we need a mover, a seconder for.
Councillor Watson.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
I'd like to move that council reconsider the motion.
Sorry, we have to have a vote first, I
Oh, we need
believe.
to vote?
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Connors, please.
I'd like to move that council reconsider the motion passed at the last council meeting relating to the organizational review.
Okay, that being the case, then I will declare my interest at this point.
As will I.
So to do both parts of that, declaring interest in doing so because my spouse works here, and that would be the
Okay.
cause of conflict.
And will I have are we doing this? Can we delay this till after the in-camera session, Mr. Graves, or will it happen now? Just curious on the protocol. Okay, thank you.
You could.
Could we do that just in the essence of time and we have someone's here? Councillor Graham, please.
Sorry, my understanding was that, through you, Mr. Chair, was that we needed 2/3 of the vote to bring a matter back to the table.
Mr. Graves, please.
Your Worship, according to the reconsideration of your procedural bylaw, it must be supported by a majority of the members present. So it's in your procedural bylaw.
Thank you. So firstly, is it the will of the group that we could table until after the in-camera session? For ease of the Deputy Mayor assuming the chair and stuff like that? And Ms. Greenall coming and us making it at a certain time just for timing. Is that okay? Can I get sort of an idea from folks if they're okay with that? I'm getting some nods. Councillor, please.
Can you get Mr. Graves' opinion on that, please?
I will. I defer to Mr. Graves.
If council's in concurrence to move it till after the other portion of representation, that certainly can happen. Yes.
Thank you. Any objections? Seeing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please, to go into closed session? Councillor Connors, Councillor Halpin, please.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Halpin. The council proceed into closed session at 3:04 to address a matter pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board.
All those in favor? Opposed? We're in a second to end closed session, please. Counselor Bachman. Counselor Connors, please.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Bogman, seconded by Counselor Connors, the council adjourn from closed session and return to open session at 3:57 PM.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We now have an item that's been tabled for discussion, with which I have a conflict. I've declared a conflict, so I will vacate the chair to the deputy mayor. And, oh,
I didn't see this.
but first a bylaw. Sure, if I could get a mover and a seconder for the bylaw. No, I didn't see that one. If I get a mover and a seconder for the CS1, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Halpin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Counselor Halpin, that item CS1 be received for information and that staff proceed as directed by council.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We have a tabled motion as mentioned. The motion is one that I've declared a conflict in, and I'm going to vacate the chair to the deputy mayor. I also ask leave for another commitment and would ask to leave at 4 PM, if that's okay with council. Thank you.
If I might help, I think where we left off, I'm kind of juggling my mind too. So council agreed to hear the motion. So now the motion on the floor, the motion that would need to be on the floor, I think Council Connors is about to make it, is that council reconsider the motion that had been passed regarding the organizational review. Just so you know where how that happens procedurally, that motion needs to be on the floor. Then depending if that goes or not or doesn't go, council would vote on that. And if that is successful, then the original motion as presented by Councillor Graham at the last meeting comes back on the floor as if it hadn't been considered at the last meeting. So that motion comes back on the floor.
So
Go ahead, Councillor Connor.
I'd like to move that the council reconsider the motion passed at the last council meeting relating to the organizational review.
Yeah.
Seconded by Councillor Watson. Mr. Graves, can you confirm, we had a brief conversation Wednesday morning about this, and I thought we had is it a majority vote or is it a 2-3 or 2-3?
This is a majority vote.
It's a majority vote.
It's in your procedural bylaw.
Okay, because when we talked about it, it was 2 out of 3.
I wouldn't have said that, sir, because I didn't have my procedural bylaw with me.
Okay,
I wouldn't have known what it said.
Councillor Graham.
Just to be clear, so Councillor Connors, you are putting a motion on the floor to reconsider this completely. So not an amendment for timing of it, but completely reconsider it so that it would be a no versus a yes, right? Is that correct?
At this point, yes, that's correct.
Mr. Chair,
So I just want to
Graves.
clarify to help Councillor Graham that the original motion comes back on the floor. That's in entirety, and then council would move and second that and debate it in terms of where it goes from there. So.
Mr. Chair, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Connors, seconded by Counselor Watson, that council reconsider the motion carried at the regular meeting dated June 26, 2023 regarding organizational review.
Does anybody want to speak to this, or do we want to just call the vote? I'll call the vote. Oh, Counselor Watson.
I'll speak to it a little bit. I think we have two things going on here that we have to, with a new CAO coming in, I don't think we need to have her balancing two things going forward. I found out doing a little bit of digging that we are almost have a strategic review almost already done, right? And we've had a consultant in to compile that data. We just have to get together a few times and for everyone to talk and make this plan going forward. So I guess my question is to Wendell, what is the status of our old strategic plan? And I have a supplemental question when you're.
Mr. Graves.
I'm just trying to be simplistic. I think what we need to deal with first is you have a motion for reconsideration on the table. I will
Okay.
answer your question,
Okay.
but I think you
All
need to
right.
deal with that motion first.
Okay.
Because then we're going to get all muddled up in other
Right,
things. So
right.
I'm not trying to
No
deflect.
problem.
It's just we need to
I
deal with
gotcha.
that motion first.
Yeah.
I just want to speak to the strategic planning is a process by which an organization defines its strategic direction. Oh, my chair just fell down. And makes decisions about allocating its resources, both financially and staff resources. The strategic plan and the organizational review, they really go hand in hand, I believe. I wanted to say that came right off the municipal Association of Ontario. So our staff resources are a very important part of our strategic focus and strategic plan. And they really help us going forward to know who we have working with us and their strengths. And that helps going forward with the strategic plan. Honestly, the strategic plan was never talked about until we put the organizational review on the agenda on Monday. So anyways, are we calling a vote? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Ms. Leach, do you want to read the motion?
That the CAO be given direction from council to complete an organizational review by an independent HR consultant of council's choice to commence in July 2023, and that any staff changes be delayed until after the organizational review is completed. Terms of reference: audit of organizational structure and reporting lines, cross-jurisdictional comparison of constituency versus staffing needs, review of job descriptions, completion of employee staff interviews, completion of a new organizational structure model based on research and feedback from staff leadership and council, seeking of a final approval from council on a fiscally responsible report, and budget estimate $10,000.
Mr. Graves, is this being voted on or can it be amended?
So it's just like any new motion coming on the floor. It's like it hadn't been there before. So first of all, you need a mover and a seconder, and then you would debate it. Okay, and then at the end of the debate, if it's amended or whatever, it's just like any other motion. Like you haven't seen it before, let's put it that way. So you need a mover and a seconder.
Is there a mover for this motion? Yeah. Yeah, okay. And I'll second it. And does anybody want to speak to this? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails. Go ahead. Councillor
Thank you.
Halpin.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would also like to ask to make a motion today without notice. So I move to do so.
Do I accept that or do we vote on that?
I think you need to state the purpose and then council would vote if they can, if they'll allow that today.
Thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion without notice for us to pick up where we left off with the strategic plan and get that finished.
I would rather the mayor be part of that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is your obligation by the procedural bylaw and the code of conduct to act in those capacities and to follow the procedures that exist there. So we need to go through this once I've asked.
Okay, I just thought it'd be beneficial to have the mayor here if we're talking about something like a strategic plan. But okay, let's continue.
So
If I may, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to keep us on track. So you first of all have to ask council if they're concurrence with the motion or the motion to come on the floor.
Does council concur?
I have a question before I concur, before I say yes or no.
Go ahead, Councillor Connors.
So the strategic plan is already in the works. Norm has alluded to it. And our Councillor Watson has alluded to it, and it's in the works right now. It's very close apparently to being finalized. We haven't spoken about it in a council meeting. Can you speak to where it's at right now, Mr. Graves?
Okay, let's just pause for a second. So first of all, we're dealing with Councillor Halpin has asked if she can put a question on the floor. We have to
Yes.
deal with that first. And then we'll talk about the
Okay,
strategic
fair enough.
plan. Okay, I'm just trying to keep it kind of straight for you.
Just for clarification, is it a question or a motion?
It's a motion.
Motion, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we vote
If council's
we're
in
going to
concurrence
continue.
with talking, yeah.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor of hearing this? Opposed? Motion fails. Are we at the adjournment part of the meeting?
I believe that the strategic plan is something we need to focus on, but I'd like to know from you where it sits right now.
I'm sorry, I do have to call point of order on this. We're not allowed to discuss, question, debate, et cetera, on a topic until we have a motion on the floor. We were supposed to vote without debate about whether to put a motion on the floor, and that would give us the opportunity to carry that conversation. But if we're not going to do that, then we aren't allowed to talk about it right now. We have to wait and actually get it into a report.
Thank you, Councillor Halpin. Motion for adjournment? Oh, okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 2813? Councillor Graham, Councillor Halpin. All in favor? Opposed? And this one? And last motion second, how do we do this? Okay, that bylaw 2813 be read a third time and finally passed. Mover and a seconder? Councillor Halpin, Councillor Connors. All in favor? Opposed, carried. And mover for adjournment. Councillor Graham, Councillor Bachman. All in favor? Carried.